We don't watch NXT for main roster guys and The Rock and all that kind of stuff. Because if we did, might have a little bit of a problem with what The Rock pulled on this show. Pulling the main event spot with nothing to say whatsoever. Even though I don't mind what he said, it just took him forever to get it out. Because much like Triple H and Nick Khan, who appeared on this show, The Rock is self-absorbed. So he couldn't cut off the chants. He couldn't ignore the people yelling at him and all that kind of stuff. It's really silly. We're going to talk about NXT New Year's Evil from January the 7th, 2024. And The Rock appeared at the end of the show. But Nick Khan and Triple H poked their big head and big nose into the situation as well. But I gotta tell you, fun show. Not perfect, clearly, but infinitely better than Raw flicks. I gotta tell you, not to compare the two, but when you talk about things actually occurring on the show, NXT actually has things that occur on the wrestling show. There was actual stories being told on the show. So we start with The Rock appearing. I've already talked about The Rock a little bit. When they showed a video package of Javon Evans, he was talking through the wire of his broken jaw, saying he's going to make Ethan Page feel his pain. Ava was talking to Ethan Page later on about this, and Ethan Page was upset that he wasn't featured on this show. And it felt like he should be. Then The Rock appears behind him. The Rock and Ethan Page had a stare down. Ethan Page has been in segments with CM Punk and The Rock. Oh my God. This is about as bad as all the stuff Kevin Owens gets to do, right? He gets to walk around with the winged eagle, got to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is absurd. Of all the people you could have mixed up with The Rock, Ethan Page. We'll talk about that more in a second. Anyway, The Rock talks about Ethan Page as if he actually watches NXT. Says that he heard he broke a guy's jaw. Ethan Page said he did. The Rock said that karma's going to catch back up to him. Ethan Page doubts it. He says he heard that Ethan Page broke a guy's wrist. Ethan Page said, I broke his fingers, but I'll take credit for his wrist, which I thought was funny. And The Rock said, look, me and you, I want us to be cool. And Ethan Page was like, yeah. And he says, if we're going to be cool, you have to be cool with Ava. I'm the final boss, but in NXT, she's the final boss. Now, are we going to be cool? And Ethan Page was like, yeah, we're going to be cool. And that was it. Then The Rock asked Ava for advice on how to address the NXT audience. Not one time did he acknowledge that's his daughter. We were supposed to pretend that this was not the case. Let's just talk about it right now. Brian Alvarez said that Ava was the worst general manager in the history of WWE. And if I remember correctly, a computer was the general manager of WWE. I don't know if it's get worse than a computer. I don't think she's that bad. I don't think she's as bad as the computer. I don't know if wasn't Mike Adamle also like a general manager, or I know he was a commentator. He was really bad at that. But didn't he have some kind of general managership or something like that too? Ava is certainly on the list of really bad management in WWE. She's certainly on the list. But pulling The Rock onto the show just by being who she is ticks her up a couple of notches above the computer. Let's put it like that, all right? So I guess she's better than the computer. But she is not very good. And it's because she can't really talk. She's not a good personality. She doesn't display emotions very well. She's very blank. She's very neutral. And when you have somebody who's very neutral in a leadership role, it's easy for them to disappear. She needs to have more attitude. Maybe she can't, but it would help if she was solidly a heel or solidly a babyface. And she's kind of a babyface, but she kind of makes decisions that don't make sense sometimes. So, whatever. Anyway, she got The Rock to show up, which is a win. The Rock comes out there. He starts out with 7 minutes remaining. He babbles. He yahoo! He does all the stuff. He complained about everybody complaining about him, saying that last year everybody was telling him not to be mean to Cody. This year everybody's telling him he can't be having tequila with Cody. Shut up. Shut your mouth. Know your role. Play enjoy the ride I'm going to take you on. I'm like, why are you using your time on NXT to complain about people complaining about you? Stop it. And then he just starts to talking about the tickets. And this is the part I actually did like. He said, Raw on Netflix, a bunch of celebrities. There's going to be cameos. All the stars are going to be there. That's an easy ticket to buy. Because you know what you're going to get. That's an easy ticket to buy. Coming to NXT is what you want to see. And I'm telling you, I thoroughly enjoyed that. Because that's how I feel. I paid more attention to this show than I did to the Raw on Netflix show. I actually enjoy watching NXT. I don't necessarily enjoy watching Raw, regardless of what platform it's on. So he's right. He's absolutely right. The people who show up to see NXT are the hardest of the hardcores, because they're supporting the people who nobody knows. And it's by design that nobody knows these people. So he had a good point. He drove it home. And then he thanked the crowd by saying, all of this happens, whether these people in 3 years are the main event of WrestleMania or whether they're out of the business, is all going to decide on the crowd. He talked about his time as Flex Kavana and how his time as Flex Kavana taught him how to be dependent upon the crowd. He's again overrating his time in USWA. But, it is what it is. I think he was already under contract at the time, so they weren't going to allow him to fail. In any event, he said he knows what it's like to be dependent upon the crowd, which is a fact because all wrestlers are. No matter how much Vince might want you to make it, if you don't actually get the crowd, then you don't make it. Look at Lex Luger, for God's sake. And Ludwig Borga. And Vladimir Kozlov. And the Great Khali. And Heidenreich. And Snitsky. And so many others. So many others. But I think he made a good point. He went to NXT to put over the importance of NXT and to put the fans over, to make the fans feel that we don't forget NXT. It's not a nothing show that's thrown to the side. It is important to us because this is what the future is. And it's important that you guys are supporting the show. And for somebody who watches NXT, I appreciated it. Thank you very much, Rock. I don't know why you need to take 10 minutes to say that. You could have said it in 3 minutes, but he hit his cue exactly and got out of there at exactly 10 o'clock. So he got just enough time in to say what he needed to say, and then he got the hell on out of Dodge. So thank you, Rock, for thanking us, and we all appreciate it. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of NXT, which was the first hour and a half, which seemed like it was a women's show. The first match on the show, Julia wins the NXT Women's Championship from Roxanne Perez with the Northern Lights bomb. Booker T is on commentary. Oh, Corey Graves is there too, by the way. So they have, Booker T is technically still the heel commentator. I don't know what Corey Graves is supposed to do. But Corey Graves is there. Anyway, Booker T was spamming Roxanne Perez's accomplishments. He was just spamming everything. How she was a champion at 16 and Reality of Wrestling, all the stuff she won in NXT, just jamming it and trying to get it all in there. I love that he's so biased towards Roxanne Perez because he should be. That's one of his, students. So the match was very good as usual. Roxanne Perez is a good technician. My issue is always going to be on her personality. They did a top rope butterfly superplex. That is a double underhood suplex from the top rope, and it was not the finish, which is ludicrous because Roxanne Perez is 96 pounds, and she got thrown off the top rope with onto her spine with no defense, and she was not pinned for that. They were telling the story of Roxanne attacking the arms of Julia, which I guess helped her survive getting thrown off the top rope. There was a nice little spot there where they were both outside the ring, and it looked like Roxanne was going to get counted out. It looked like it was going to be a double count out. And Cora Jade jumped the barricade. She didn't touch Julia, but she threw Roxanne Perez in the ring, trying to get Julia counted out. And Julia ends up, of course, beating the count. The finish, well, I should back up. The pop rocks, she actually hits the pop rocks and Julia kicks out of it. The finish is kind of anticlimactic because we just get the Northern Lights bomb. It wasn't like some kind of, funny or slick way of getting the finish to the point. She just kind of hit it. One Northern Lights bomb, and that was it. She won the match clean. Cora Jade was ejected after she got caught at ringside. She didn't really do much else. And that was that. And I kind of shrugged. I was like, okay. Julia is great. So that ruled. This was a very good match. Would watch again. We get Stephanie Vaquer defeating Kalani Jordan, Cora Jade, and Lola Vice in a number one contender North American Championship match. So the winner was to fight Fallon Henley. Stephanie Vaquer ended up pinning Kalani Jordan. A lot happened in this match. Booker T, once again, extremely excited, but this time because Lola Vice is in the match, and he loves him so Lola Vice. Cora Jade with them big-ass cans. Just, I don't know what's going on. Like, her body permanently leans forward. I don't get it. It's like somebody stuffed a Barbie doll. Like, her breasts are way too big. It'd be too big for her body, and you can't ignore it. Kalani Jordan is still leaning more towards being a heel. She did it quite a bit in this match too, but I kind of figured Stephanie was going to win. I think it was the right decision for her to win. Maybe it was the right decision, but so Stephanie won. This match was fun. I didn't like that they did that 4-girl sleeper hold spot. I wasn't a big fan of that. It is what it is, though. So this is connected to the next match, which was a 6-woman tag where Fatal Influence, which consists of JC Jane, Fallon Henley, and Jasmine Nix, were defeated by Chemical X, which consists of Shotzi, Gigi Dolan, and Tatum Paxley. So in this match, we had Shotzi throwing herself at the ground again. We had a humorous Gigi JC exchange where JC was a Looney Tunes character and tried to flee, only to get caught up in one of the most choreographed strike exchanges I've ever seen. And I think that we really need to get away from that. Again, one of my things about wrestling is I love personality and character. That's like number one. You have a good personality, good character, we can book around the rest. The second thing under that would be if your offense looks legitimate. Not just the moves that you do, but do they make sense? And does it fit your character? Gigi Dolan just still comes across like an indie wrestler. This is her 4th or 5th year in NXT, by the way. She's not terrible, but her offense doesn't look that legitimate. Especially that knee strike she does. Like, she does like some kind of forearms and combination, and then she throws this knee strike, but she doesn't grab her opponent's head and jam it into her knee. She kind of waits for her opponent to drop their own head into the knee. It's very weird. It's also very light. I'm not a big fan of it. I wish she would stop doing it, but she does it literally all the time. There was a double jump outside the ring by Gigi and Tatum Paxley onto Jasmine Nix and JC Jane. This left Shotzi along with Fallon Henley, and Shotzi pinned Fallon Henley with her top rope senton. So Shotzi comes back, tries to kill herself. It doesn't work. Instead, she wins, which is a surprise. This takes us into Ava's office, where Fallon Henley is learning about her big match with Stephanie Vaquer that's going to come up. And then Shotzi interrupts by saying that she pinned Fallon Henley, so she should be the number one contender. Stephanie was like, wait a second, I just literally won a number one contenders match. How can Shotzi even have a claim on this thing? Which is a good point. It is an excellent point. And this is one of those things where that makes Ava the worst general manager. She actually agrees with Fallon Henley when Fallon Henley says, you two should wrestle each other and I'll fight the winner. And Ava agreed with that. I'm like, wait a second. Wait 1 second. You set up a number one contenders match. Stephanie won that match. Stephanie is the number one contender. She should not have to defend her number one contendership against somebody else. All right. I don't, whatever. Anyway, so they're going to do Shotzi versus Stephanie Vaquer next week, and the winner of that match will fight Fallon Henley. I'm hoping that they will not turn this into a triple threat match. That was, to me, the worst option, because that would, of course, split right in the face of Stephanie Vaquer. But this is the second time they've done this. When Femi won the deadline match, the Iron Survivor, it got complicated with Eddie Thorpe getting put in the triple threat match, even though he didn't earn it. And now in this same situation, now Shotzi did kind of pin the champion, but it was in a 6-woman tag match. You know, why are these people winning number one contenders matches and then having their shot complicated with other people? This is like when, Vince shoehorned Bryan Danielson into that Edge Roman Reigns match. Like, why? Can you explain to me again why you did that? I don't see why you're doing this. Clearly the reason is they just put the belt on Fallon Henley not too long ago. Maybe they're second guessing putting the belt on Stephanie so soon. And maybe they want to use Shotzi as a stopgap. Maybe Shotzi somehow wins that match next week. Sometimes maybe it comes a triple threat match so that Fallon Henley can beat Shotzi and lengthen her run. Because I'm pretty sure they're not going to have Fallon Henley wrestle Stephanie Vaquer one-on-one and beat her. But these are the kind of decision making I'm not a big fan of from Ava. And I hate having to say that Brian Alvarez has a point, but the man has a point. You're making dumbass decisions, Ava. You have giant teeth. Next, Ava continues to make decisions because Eddie Thorpe, he was laying out on the steps talking about, my back and my neck, my kidneys and such. And Ava was like, I see you. You're faking. It's a triple threat match tonight. And Eddie Thorpe like, I didn't do this. I'm hurt so bad. And Ava was like, don't care. It's going to be a triple threat match. Then we go back to her office. She sets up Isla Dawn and Alba Fire versus Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson next week. Number one contender for the women's tag team titles. I thought this was already set up, but they needed to make this official. And then Femi walked in and just admitted that he attacked Eddie Thorpe and said he did it because Eddie Thorpe attacked him last week, which makes sense. But Ava refuses to let this man out of the triple threat match. She's going to force him to wrestle in the triple threat match. So then we have the main event of the evening. Femi defeats Trick Williams to win the NXT championship. Because technically this was a triple threat match, but Eddie Thorpe did not matter. They started the match without Eddie Thorpe. They wrestled 80% of the match without Eddie Thorpe. He showed up with a steel chair later into the match. At one point, Obafemi kicked out of one of the trick shots. A second trick shot was dodged by Obafemi. Ended up hitting Eddie Thorpe in the face with a chair. While he was selling that, he got pop-up powerbombed by Obafemi and pinned. And Eddie Thorpe didn't do shit in this match. But he's going to probably be used as an excuse to why Obafemi won. And likely, we're going to end up with Obafemi versus Eddie Thorpe. Because more than likely, it's going to be a question of Eddie Thorpe didn't get his shot because Obafemi took him out. So, what does this do for Trick? Nothing. It didn't help Trick at all. Because Trick just lost. Clean, pretty much. And he doesn't seem to be next in line either. Because it looks like the story will proceed with Eddie Thorpe versus Obafemi. And they just decided to write Trick Williams out. So is he about to get called up? Which I hope is not the case because he still needs some time in NXT. But obviously I'm thrilled about Obafemi winning. I'm just not thrilled about this way of it happening. And this goofy triple threat. Which wasn't really a triple threat. It was just kind of like a baked in intervention to Trick Williams versus Obafemi one-on-one match. But Obafemi winning was fantastic. I love me some Obafemi. He's the right guy to go over. They had a stage where Julia and Obafemi both raised the titles and there was smoke and confetti and such. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And then we get some backstage stuff where Obafemi and Julia is backstage schmoozing with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. They shaking hands with the production team and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's interesting. That's interesting. Like, what is all this leading to? But it was just Julia bowing a lot to Shawn Michaels. And there were no words to any of this stuff because it was in commercial. So they just wanted to show some backstage stuff, which I guess is neat, but I don't know how it furthers any story. But whatever. Again, Obafemi wins. Great job. Lexis King defeats Charlie Dempsey in the sudden death Heritage Cup match. He wins because Charlie Dempsey tried to do a leapfrog and ended up getting headbutted in the nuts, right in the ball sack. And from there, Lexis King hits his finish, the coronation, to win the match. Match was okay. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. Lexis King, still iffy. Charlie Dempsey, still quite good. I'm okay with Lexis King having the cup. You can't really complain about this too much. I will prefer if they got rid of the cup's rules, but I guess they're going to go back to regular rules match now. If I remember correctly, I didn't write this down. I think Charlie Dempsey was announced as the champion in this match, even though we know Lexis King won the belt, the trophy last week, but 2 weeks ago on a disqualification. But whatever. Anyway, NXT, very fun show. They got a lot done. You know, they featured a lot of talent, a lot of women's matches. If you're not a fan of how NXT douses their show in women's matches, you probably won't like this. But I think that the women's matches furthered angles and the matches were solid. If the matches sucked, then I probably would say, why even have these people on the show? And there was some wonkiness, clearly, to the women's six-man tag due to no ring generals being in there. You know, there's no ring general among those six women. I think Fallon Henley might be the most experienced of the bunch and probably the best wrestler of the bunch. But Shotzi is, a spot monkey. And Tatum Paxley is kind of a mixed bag. Jasmine Nix is basically a toddler wrestling. She's basically a newborn. She's only been there a couple of months. JC Jane is a super senior, but she's 90% character and not really much in the ring. And then, so, you know, that had a little bit of wackiness to it. But for the most part, I enjoyed the show from top to bottom. Again, would watch again. Should be noted, you know, just a hard edit, that Shannon Sharp is actually, well, I don't know if it's him or somebody who works on his show, is actually live tweeting NXT. That's very cool. And the more exposure the show gets, the better. So I'm glad, maybe that's what The Rock coming on there for was, you know, getting more exposure to the show, getting people who wouldn't normally watch it to watch it at least. So that was good. That ended up working out just fine. And it seemed like they enjoyed the show too, from what I saw. This leads a lot of people to think that maybe wrestling is mainstream again. Don't overthink this. Okay, just don't overthink everything. Just because Shannon Sharp is jumping right now with, you know, the Club Shay Shay and all the other shows that he's doing, and he's, you know, maybe his network is showing some love to NXT. Just appreciate it and don't overthink it. You know, there's too many people who all of a sudden want to jump on and be like, everybody loves wrestling now. It's like, it's a couple of days, right? A lot of people watch the Netflix thing, and some people got them a taste of NXT tonight due to The Rock being on the show. I appreciate all of that attention, but in 2 weeks, most of you people are going to just float away, and that's fine. You know, but I don't want wrestling fans to get the wrong idea. You know, don't get the wrong idea. They're flirting with you. They don't want to marry you. All right? They're just flirting right now. They don't want your phone number. They don't want you to follow them nowhere. You can't take them out. All right? It's just harmless, probably workplace flirtations. Yes, your fans, some people are your friends. Some people might ask you about wrestling, like, oh, don't you still watch wrestling? Did you watch the Netflix thing? Yeah, they might do that. But this is this is not real, all right? This is temporary. By the end of the month, we'll see how many of these people are still around. Because WrestleMania season always does this. There's always an unusual amount of people watching the show. There's an unusual amount of people watching the show right now. We'll see in a month. All right. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.
Skin tone, so why attach yourself and piggyback the wealth you didn't earn or lack yourself? I'm telling you to own up to your own success and failures. It's a reason why these sleazy guys